Hi, in this discussion we're going to talk about table views in iOS. Table views usually function within a navigation controller, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And of course we have demos that explain how to do this, how to present a table view and load content and so forth. So what is a table view? A table view is a list of information that we arrange in what we call cells. Each cell is a UI table view cell object. And a table view itself is backed by some sort of listable object, an array, usually an NS array, or an NS dictionary, or some mutable variation. Table views are controlled by a class called a UI table view controller, and this contains important delegate methods. It will count the number of cells that there should be in the table view, the number of headers, let's say the content of that cell. So these are the delegate methods, and they are housed in two protocols. UI table view delegate, which is how the table view presents its information and how it controls selection on a cell and things like that. And then UI table view data source is the other delegate, or the other protocol. UI table view data source is the actual underlying data to be presented by the table view. The cell content can be styled in a predefined way, and there are several pre-written styles, or you can either style it in IB, Interface Builder, or within your own code. We group the cells. We can either have one section in a table view if we want to have just one contiguous table view, or we can group those cells into sections, and then each section can have a header or a footer or both. So we can also apply an index, if we want, to the grouping of cells. UI table view controller. So we mentioned that a table view is controlled by a UI table view controller. This is just a subclass of UI view controller. So for there to be a new controller pushed or segued onto a window when we select a cell in a table view, that table view controller is usually made to be the root view controller of a UI navigation controller. It can also be set up such that the navigation controller is one view controller or one of many view controllers in a UI tab bar controller, but we're not quite there yet, so stick around. We'll get to UI tab bar controllers and how they work. But UI navigation controllers we've already talked about, and they're a very simple way to push a stack of view controllers onto the screen. Now, if we are running a table view in a storyboard setting, we respond to user action in a particular cell by overriding, again, the prepare for segue sender method, just as we do in the navigation controller, or just as we do in any other UI view controller when we're pushing a new view controller either modally or onto a navigation controller stack. If we're in a zib file, we respond by overriding a provided delegate method of the table view, and that is called table view did select row at index path method. So now, in order to understand the index path, which we have to understand both for a storyboard setting and for a zip file setting, let's talk about that for a moment. An index path has some information about a cell's address, if you will, in a table view. A cell's address contains information about both the section that cell is sitting in and the row within that section. So indexpath.section is a zero-based section of the table view in which the cell is residing, and that's for a group table. If it's an ungrouped table, if it's one long list of data, then indexpath.section is going to be 0. Indexpath.row is the index of the cell, then that's zero-based again, within its section. So the first row in a section is indexpath.row equals 0, the second one is 1, and so forth. Both of these properties are NS integers, and we already know that an NS integer is really just a type def as an int. So what are some of these delegate methods? Well, the three most important ones that we're going to be dealing with over and over with table views are returning an NS integer, number of sections in table view, and from this delegate method, we return the number of sections in a grouped table view, or 1 for a non-grouped table view. And then the next one that goes along with that is table view number of rows in section, and this one we have to return an integer that is the actual number of rows in each section. So this is the number of elements in a listable object containing the information to be displayed in the cells. And then finally, table view cell for row at index path is the actual information for the cell for that row in that section. So we get an index path, an NS index path, and we can use index path.section to get the section information and index path.row. And then we set up our cell information using that, using the NS dictionary or NS array that we're using to back that table view. We can add and delete cell content dynamically to a table view. So the idea here is, if we're going to add content to a table view, we need to add elements to the listable object that backs the cells and then send reload data to the table view. And that's usually all we have to do. But deleting is a little bit different. There is a code block that is given to us in a UI table view subclass, and what we do is we uncomment that code block, which is in the template, and this is shown in the demos, but we must also delete the matching elements from the listable object that goes with that cell at that index path. After a deletion, though, we don't need to send reload data. This is already handled by the table view. So once we uncomment that code block, that will handle the deletion of the cell from the table view. But we have to handle the deletion of the data from that usually mutable NS array or NS dictionary. A lot of times we're going to add new cells using a different view controller that we push onto the navigation controller that is holding this table view. And we push that new navigation controller in response to some event, like a UR bar button item telling the user that they can add using this button. If we want to get the data back from the new view controller, and we do need to do that when we add information to a table view, we have to use delegation from the new view controller back to the controller that instantiated the model. So the delegate property in a storyboard is kind of tricky to figure out where to send this. If we're in a storyboard setting, then we need to set that delegate in prepare for segue sender when we're preparing the segue that is going to display our new adding view controller. And then we can use delegation from that add view controller back to our table view controller. Importantly, though, the reason that we have to do it here is that the destination view controller is not instantiated until that segue is being prepared. So if we fail to do it here, if we tried to do it in the table view controller's view-did-load method, let's say, or even worse, in a storyboard setting in it with nibname and bundle, which never fires. If we try to do it someplace else, though, bottom line is that view controller will not yet be instantiated. That view controller is not instantiated until the segue is being prepared. So the only place to set a delegate, and this goes for table views, it goes for your view controllers, it goes for modal view controllers even. The only place to set a delegate in a storyboard setting is during the prepare for segue with sender method. Okay, thank you very much.